Hello students, how are you? I hope you all are doing well. So, welcome to the next session of the company law. In the last section, we studied the accounts of the company related provision. What is meant by financial statement, the provisions relating to the books of accounts, books and paper, how the company has to maintain all those records, etc. Now we will take it further and we will try to understand the concept, the newly incorporated concept in Companies Act 2013, Corporate Social Responsibility. In short, it is called as CSR. So let's begin with Corporate Social Responsibility. Corporate social responsibility provision is given under section 135. So entire one section has been given for corporate social responsibility. This is a newly incorporated provision, as I said earlier, which was not there in the 1956 Act. Now, India is the only country, or you can say the first country in the world, who has made this mandatory provision for the companies. So, Companies Act lays down the provisions requiring corporates to mandatorily spend the prescribed percentage of their profits on certain specified areas for social upliftment in discharge of their social responsibility. Okay, because when a company, it is considered that company is using the natural resources, at the same time company in turn should give something in return to the society, and that is the reason this concept has come into picture and it has got a lot of relevance. So broadly, CSR implies a concept whereby companies decide to contribute a better society and a cleaner environment. So a concept whereby the companies integrate its social and other useful concerns in their business operations for the betterment of its stakeholders and of course society in general. So let's begin with the provisions of the corporate social responsibility. So it has the corresponding rules as well. So CSR, first, to whom this particular concept is mandatory. It is mandatory for every company. It is mandatory for every company. Okay, there is a threshold given for the companies. Okay, every company having, you can say every company having, so let's say there are three thresholds are given. Net worth of rupees 500 crores or more. Net worth of rupees 500 crores or more. Turnover of rupees 1000 crore or more. Again 1000 crore or more. And third one, net profit of rupees 5 crore or more. So we can say that this particular concept has been broadly classified into three categories, and let me tell you, this is the OR condition. So either net worth is of this particular amount 500 crores or more, turnover of 1000 crores or more, or net profit of 5 crores or more during the immediately preceding financial year, okay, shall constitute a corporate social responsibility committee. So you can say during immediately preceding financial year. Okay, so it shall constitute such company, you can say such company shall constitute CSR Committee. Okay, and it is of the board. Okay, so these are the provisions given under 135. There are corresponding rules of the CSR Company CSR Rules 2014, which basically provides a kind of, you can say, the definition of CSR. So CSR means and includes. So there is no particular definition given under the Act for the CSR, but the definition as per rules, you can say, definition as per rules of the CSR, definition as per CSR Rules 2014, we can say CSR means and includes first, projects or activities, projects or programs, you can say, rather than activity, projects or programs relating to areas or subjects specified in Schedule VII of the Act. Or projects or programs relating to areas, relating to activities, you can say over here, relating to the activities by BOD in pursuance of recommendations of CSR Committee as per CSR Policy. So here you can see the Schedule 7 is mentioned and the projects of program as decided or recommended by the CSR Committee as per CSR Policy. So we will talk about that. What is the procedure? First, you need to appoint the CSR Committee. First, you need to check this particular threshold. If your company is falling under this particular criteria, then the CSR Committee of the Board of Directors is to be appointed as per the rules of the CSR Rules 2014. After that, company will have to formulate the CSR policy. The CSR Committee will, okay, and it should be approved properly, and this is the procedure. So we'll talk about that. So here you can see that net worth turnover concepts are mentioned. So what is meant by that? So net worth is basically, it means the aggregate value of the paid up share capital and all reserves created out of the profits and securities premium account after deducting the aggregate value of accumulated losses, deferred expenditure and miscellaneous expenditure not written off as per audited balance sheet. So this is the definition of the net worth which is given under section 2 subsection 57 of the Companies Act, whereas turnover is basically the sales, okay, of the company. One general definition also we can take it. And net profit, as we know, net profit has to be calculated as per section 198 of the Companies Act. So let's now talk about some of the important pointers, okay, relating to the CSR, so that we'll understand in a better way. So let's talk about the important pointers. Important points for CSR. So one has to keep in mind the important points. First, specified companies, okay, specified companies should constitute CSR committee, okay. Specified companies should constitute CSR committee of board of directors. CSR committee of board of directors. Company CSR rules should be complied with. So normally the board of directors, minimum 3 directors are required, but where the private company is having 2 directors, it may form the CSR committee. So in case of the public limited company, 1 director should be independent director, but again in private limited company we do not have that particular provision, okay, we don't require it. So we need to apply, okay, the CSR rules 2014 for that particular purpose. Then after that, the CSR committee, now what will happen? The CSR committee shall consisting of the 3 or more directors, you can say. Committee, how many directors are required? So these pointers are also important. 3 or more directors. But as I told you, okay, 3 or more directors, 1 should be independent. 1 should be independent director, that is mandatory, okay. So but private limited company is not required to have. So for private limited minimum 2, if only 2 directors, BODs, only 2 BODs, or you can say if only 2 directors on board. Now what will be the duties of this particular CSR committee? So CSR committee duties are defined under duties of CSR committee, section 135 subsection 3. So it is a duty of the CSR committee to formulate and recommend to the board CSR policy. We shall indicate the activities to be undertaken, recommend the amount of expenditure to be incurred on the activities, then monitor the CSR policy from time to time. So these are some of the duties of the CSR committee. Then one should have, okay, formulating the CSR policy, recommending to the board. These are some of the important duties. So what are the contents which are required in the CSR policy? CSR policy document is very important because on the basis of that document only company is going to incur the CSR expenditure. So list of CSR projects or programs which a company plans to undertake, okay, falling under that particular Schedule VII, or they may have certain different criteria which will comply with the CSR provisions. Monitoring the projects, how the monitor has to be done, monitoring should be done. It does not include the activities undertaken. It is a prohibition that, okay, activities should not be, okay, included. So we can talk about, we can just give few pointers over here. तो पहले तो हम लोग बात करते हैं duties of CSR committee. Formulate and you can say recommend CSR policy to board. Recommend amount of expenditure to be incurred on CSR. Monitor CSR policy. So okay, these are the some of the duties of the CSR committee. Now what is made by CSR policy? You can say contents. So in CSR policy one should mention list of CSR projects which company would like to undertake, monitoring process of such projects, CSR activities should not include activities undertaken in pursuance of normal business of company. Okay, so these are some of the activities you can say which should be mentioned. What are the duties of the board of directors? The board of directors, after taking into recommendation, so after receiving the recommendations from the CSR committee, the board of director will approve CSR policy for the company and it will disclose such policy in its report. It will ensure that, okay, the activities as are included in CSR policy are undertaken by the company. So duties of the board, duties of BOD, okay. After receiving recommendation by from CSR committee, approve CSR policy. Disclose contents of its report and ensure that CSR ensure that activities are undertaken as per CSR policy. Okay, so these are some of the duties of the board of directors. Then the very important question, that is the amount of contribution which the CSR which the company will have to incur on the CSR activities. Amount of contribution towards CSR. So how much amount of contribution, that is given under section 135(5). Okay, so what is the amount of contribution which is required to be made towards CSR? So this section says that the board of every company shall ensure that the company spend, every company here means the company which fall under the threshold, in every financial year at least 2% of the average net profits made during the 3 immediately preceding financial year. Okay, so here we can say that specified company shall spend in every financial year at least 2% of average net profit, at least 2% of average net profit of the company made during 3 immediately preceding financial year. Okay, so this is the calculation which a company will have to do. So let's assume that my 3 average financial year contribution or net profit is 10 lakh, then my company will have to incur 2% of it. So 2% whatever it will come, okay, company will have to ensure that it will incur. So this is the way, okay, the CSR policy, or the 2% of it is 20 lakhs normally. So see, this is the way amount of the contribution should be incurred by the company. So CSR activities, as I told you, CSR activities should be from schedule number 3. The various activities are noted down over there relating to the social work. Then calculation of this average net profit has to be done in accordance with section 198 of the Companies Act. After that, CSR reporting, the board report should contain CSR reporting, I would say. So board should contain should be made under board report, should be made under board's report, under board's report. Okay, so that is important. Activities should be properly undertaken, like eradicating hunger, promoting education, promoting gender equality, environmental sustainability, then training to the promote rural sport, contribution to the Prime Minister National Relief Fund, etc. So these are some of the activities which a company can undertake. And the last, if any particular, what are the penal provisions or penalties for not undertaking? Penalties. So what can be the penal provision? So board should disclose it, okay, as per the what we have seen. If company fails to disclose such information, it shall be punishable. So if company board report should disclose the composition of the CSR committee. If the company fails to spend such amount, the board shall disclose and specify the reasons for it. If company fails to spend amount the board shall disclose and specify the reasons for not spending CSR. Okay, in its report. And in case of contravention, in case of default, case of contravention, you can say, then what will happen? So if it is a company, and every officer so company shall be punishable with fine which shall not be less than 50,000. So fine 50,000 to 25 lakhs, and every officer there can be imprisonment up to 3 years, or fine. So you can say these are the both things, or fine 50,000 to rupees 5 lakhs. So these are the penalties prescribed. Okay, so these are the important provisions relating to CSR. I hope you understood all the provisions. So you may please make a note of all these provisions very quickly. So we have seen every company which is having a net worth of the 500 crores or more, or turnover of 1000 crores or more, or net profit of 5 crores or more during immediately preceding financial year, only such company shall constitute CSR committee. The definition is given under CSR rules. So important pointers I have noted down over here. So specified companies, specific companies only should constitute CSR committee of the board. Companies rules should be complied with. CSR committee should be formulated, constituted 3 or more directors. One should be independent. For private company minimum 2, if only 2 directors are there. Duties are given to the CSR committee: formulate and recommend CSR policy to the board, recommend amount of the expenditure to be incurred on CSR, monitor CSR policy from time to time. What are the constraints, important constraints? You need to mention list of CSR projects, monitoring process. The CSR activities should not include the normal activities. It should be done in the local areas also. Okay, the activity should be undertaken in the local areas. Board's report. So I hope you have understood this particular topic, and so here we have completed the topic relating to the CSR. Now we'll move on to the next section, 136, which is the right to members of the copies of audited financial statement that we already covered. Then the few miscellaneous provisions are there. Copies of the financial statement should be filed with the Registrar of Companies as per section 137. And there is the in this particular chapter there is a last topic, which is internal audit. Internal audit. So internal audit is basically given under section 138. Okay, so 138 talks about the internal audit which is required for the company. Not all companies should have the internal auditor. So there are again specified companies. So it says that, okay, along with the rules, such class or classes of companies as may be prescribed shall be required to appoint an internal auditor, who shall either be a chartered accountant, cost accountant, or such other professional as may be decided by the board. Okay, so who is internal auditor, to whom it is to be appointed? Only to the such class or classes of companies. So companies, we will talk about that also, okay, as may be decided by the board of directors. So companies, we can say required to appoint internal auditor. Companies required to appoint internal auditor. So which are the companies which are required to appoint internal auditor? So basically every listed company. First is every listed company. Then every unlisted company. Every unlisted company having paid up share capital of rupees 50 crores or more during preceding financial year or turnover of here it should be listed public company rupees 200 crores or more again during preceding financial year C outstanding loans or borrowings more than rupees 100 crore or more again during preceding financial year at any time during preceding financial year or outstanding deposits of rupees 25 equivalent to or more. Okay, so this is for the every unlisted public company. For private limited company, every private limited company having turnover more than or equal to 200 crore and outstanding loans or borrowings more than or equal to rupees 100 crore. I think I have made some mistake here in the sign. I think I need to change it. Should be more than or equal to more than or equal to. Okay, so these are the specific companies, specified companies. They have to appoint. These companies have to appoint internal auditor. So every company, listed entity, every unlisted public limited company, and then private company. So every unlisted company which is having the paid up share capital of 50 crores or more, 200 crores or more turnover, and outstanding borrowings 100 crores or more, outstanding deposits of 25 crores or more, and then every private limited company having turnover of 200 crore or more, 100 crore or more. Okay, so these companies are required to appoint internal auditor. So audit committee of the company or the board in consultation with the internal auditor formulate functioning and the periodicity or methodology, you can say, of the internal audit, how to conduct the internal audit. So that task has been given to the audit committee in consultation with you can say in consultation with the board of directors. So who is the internal auditor? So internal auditor can be chartered accountant, cost accountant, or he may or may not be the employee of the company. So that is also not mandatory for a company that internal auditor should be from the outside only. So he may or may not be the professional, means he may be the employee of the company as well. I think one point I should mention over here. The audit committee or board in consultation with the internal auditor formulate the scope, functioning, city and methodology for conducting internal audit. Okay, so this is the task, okay, which is given to the audit committee or the board. If the audit committee is to be appointed by the company, then that audit committee or the board in consultation with the internal auditor can decide that particular matter. Now, who can be the internal auditor? So internal auditor can be either chartered accountant of the company, cost accountant of the company, or such other professional as may be, okay, decided by the board to conduct the internal audit. So in a chart, okay, we can mention what will be the role of the internal auditor. So if I have to mention in the chart, I can say that internal auditor. Okay, so who can be the internal auditor? Either he can be CA, he can be CMA, that is cost accountant, or other professional. Okay, or other professional. So he can be again, he may or may not be an employee, because see, this is the internal matter, and that is the reason company may have the policy that okay, they may have just the employee of the company who will take care of this internal audit. What is his role? Give consultation. Give consultation. To whom? Audit committee and board. And to formulate scope and functioning of internal audit. So this is the role of the internal auditor in nutshell. Okay, he can be CA, CMA or other professional. He may or may not be an employee of the company. So his role is to give consultation to the audit committee and the board of directors to conduct properly the internal audit of the company. and he will only formulate as the scope and functioning. He will put it forward to before the audit committee or the board, as the case may be, and he will conduct the internal audit of various areas of the company. So this is in nutshell what we have understood who is the internal auditor. So you may just make the pointers. So who is required to appoint internal auditor? Every listed company, every unlisted public limited company, paid up share capital, turnover, outstanding of loans and borrowings. That criteria is there. Outstanding of deposits criteria is also given. Then even every private limited company, okay, for that matter. And this chart, I think you must note it down, so that in a chart you can get proper idea the what is the role of the internal auditor. Okay, I hope you have understood all these provisions very well. So we have studied two important topics of the audits accounts of the company in that particular chapter. We started with corporate social responsibility. We understood which types of companies are required to formulate the CSR policy and constitute the CSR committee, on which basis, then its definition, important points relating to the CSR we understood, the contents and the duties of the board of directors, contents of the CSR policy, duties of board of directors, amounts of contribution towards CSR, CSR reporting, how it should be made, and penalties, very important. Okay, for your information, earlier the penalties in the original act, the penalties were not prescribed by the lawmakers, but over a period of time this act has come into picture and we started implementing CSR. We have seen so many amendments coming in this CSR provisions, okay, in the form of rules, in the form of clarification, you can say, from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs from time to time. And finally, when this provision was misused or was not implemented properly by the specified companies, government thought, okay, to introduce, lawmakers thought it to introduce the penal provisions for not complying or contravening in case of contravention of the provisions, and that is the reason now you can see the provisions over here. Okay, earlier in original act these penalties were not prescribed. then internal auditor. I hope you have understood all these provisions very well. In the next chapter, next session, we are going to start with the audit and auditors provision. Thank you so much for watching this particular video. Do watch, read, and prepare yourself for the exam. Thank you so much. We'll meet very soon in the next lecture. Till then, goodbye.